My name is Rachel Miller, and for a long time, I believed I was living in the kind of marriage other women envied. I married Daniel 4 years ago, and if you had asked me back then, I would have told you that he was the man of my dreams. Daniel wasn't just my husband, he was my partner, my safe place, the person I trusted above everyone else. We weren't perfect, of course, but we laughed together, shared late night talks, and promised to always be honest with each other. That's why I never thought twice when he stayed out late for work dinners or hung out with his friends until midnight. He was social, he loved being around people, and I didn't mind. I trusted him in a way that felt unshakable. My friends would sometimes tease me, saying, "Rachel, you're too trusting. Men always hide something." I would laugh it off because, in my heart, I was certain Daniel was different. He had never given me a reason to doubt him, at least not until that morning. It was a Saturday, and I remember waking up to soft light peeking through the curtains. Daniel was already in the kitchen, making coffee the way he always did on weekends. Everything felt normal, until I rolled over and noticed something on the nightstand beside our bed. At first, I thought it was just one of my earrings, maybe something I had taken off in a rush the night before. But when I picked it up, my stomach sank. It wasn't mine. I stared at the small gold hoop between my fingers, my mind scrambling for answers. I don't even own gold hoops. I'm more of a silver and studs kind of woman. I held it up to the light, trying to convince myself I was wrong, but there was no mistaking it. This didn't belong to me. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it had fallen out of a friend's bag during one of the gatherings we sometimes hosted at our house. Daniel loved hosting. Our place had become the spot where people crashed after long nights. Maybe someone had dropped it near the couch and it somehow ended up in our bedroom. That had to be it, right? Still, I couldn't shake the unease. I slipped the earring into my palm and walked into the kitchen, where Daniel was humming to himself while pouring coffee. His easy smile made my chest tighten. I wanted to ask him about it right then, but the words caught in my throat. What if it really was nothing? What if I sounded paranoid? "Morning," he said cheerfully, handing me a mug. I forced a smile back, tucking the earring into the pocket of my robe. The rest of the day passed in a blur, but my eyes kept drifting back to that tiny gold hoop every time I slipped my hand into my pocket. I kept telling myself it wasn't worth bringing up. Not yet. But deep down, a seed of suspicion had been planted. That night, as I lay in bed beside him, I kept staring at the nightstand where I had first spotted it. My heart felt heavy. Why was it in our bedroom? Why not the living room or the couch where people usually crashed? That question repeated itself in my mind like a whisper I couldn't ignore. Over the next few days, I tried to convince myself it didn't matter. I buried it in the back of my jewelry box, hoping I could bury my doubts along with it. But every time Daniel mentioned his best friend Claire, that seed of suspicion twisted a little deeper. Claire had always been around. She and Daniel grew up together, and he swore she was like a sister to him. She came to barbecues, movie nights, even tagged along for errands sometimes. I had accepted her presence because I trusted him. But now, the image of that gold earring burned in the back of my mind. One evening, as Daniel was laughing on the phone with Claire, I found myself gripping the edge of the counter, my heart pounding. I felt crazy for even thinking it, but something didn't add up. I tried to shake it off again, telling myself I was overthinking, that trust meant not questioning every little thing. But I couldn't ignore how uneasy I felt. That single piece of jewelry had shifted something inside me, something I couldn't put back the way it was before. I didn't know it then, but that small discovery on the nightstand would be the first crack in a marriage I thought was unbreakable. I didn't realize how much deeper that crack would grow or how devastating the truth behind it would be. And as much as I wanted to believe Daniel's words, my gut was already screaming that something was very, very wrong. The following week should have been ordinary. Work, dinner, chores, little conversations about bills and grocery lists. On the outside, everything looked the same, but inside me, something had shifted. It was as if my world had tilted just slightly, but enough to make me feel like I was losing my balance. Every time Daniel left for work or claimed he was hanging out with friends, I found myself wondering. I used to wave him goodbye without a second thought. Now, the moment the door shut, I would replay his words in my mind, searching for cracks. Was he being too casual? Too vague? Did he avoid looking me in the eye? The worst part was the constant presence of Claire. She texted him often, laughed with him in ways that felt too familiar. Before, I brushed it off as their childhood bond. But now, every giggle, every inside joke, every casual touch between them seemed louder, heavier. I started noticing things I had ignored before. One evening, Daniel came home late. He smelled faintly of perfume, not mine, not anything I owned. My stomach tightened, but I bit my tongue. When I asked where he had been, he said, "At Mike's place. Claire came over too. We all just hung out and had drinks." Something about the way he added her name, too quickly, almost rehearsed, made my chest ache. I nodded, pretending to accept it, but my mind screamed with questions. Why did I suddenly feel like she was everywhere he was? Why did I feel like I was slowly being erased? The earring wouldn't leave my thoughts. It became my secret burden, hidden in my jewelry box like a piece of evidence I wasn't ready to show. Sometimes late at night, I would take it out and turn it over in my palm, staring at the tiny curve of gold and wondering who it had belonged to. Did Claire notice it missing? Did she look for it? One Saturday morning, I decided to test something. I told Daniel I had errands to run and pretended to leave. Instead, I circled back after half an hour and sat quietly in my car parked down the street. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Sure enough, just an hour later, Claire's car pulled up in front of our house. She walked up the steps like she belonged there, holding a bag of pastries. Daniel opened the door, smiling like a man welcoming more than just a friend. She hugged him, longer than necessary, tighter than friendly. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I didn't confront them that day. I couldn't. Instead, I drove off before they could see me, tears blurring the road. I felt like a coward, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. I needed proof. That night, when Daniel came to bed, he smelled of sugar and cinnamon like the pastries Claire had brought. He kissed my cheek and wrapped his arms around me as if nothing was wrong. I lay stiff in his embrace, my mind spinning. How could he touch me so tenderly if he was hiding something so cruel? Days turned into weeks, and the tension inside me only grew. I became quieter, more distant. He noticed, of course. "What's wrong, Rach? You've been so off lately." I wanted to scream the truth at him, to hurl the earring at his face and demand answers. But instead, I shook my head and forced a small smile. Just tired. Because deep down, I wasn't just scared of the answer, I was terrified of losing him. Then came the night everything boiled over. It was late, past midnight, when Daniel stumbled into bed claiming he had been at Mike's again. But his shirt smelled faintly of perfume, the same one I had noticed before. My chest burned with anger I couldn't contain anymore.
"Daniel?" I whispered into the dark, my voice trembling. "Whose perfume is that?" He froze beside me, then chuckled nervously. "What? Oh, come on, Rach. You're imagining things. Maybe it rubbed off at Mike's. His girlfriend wears perfume all the time." I stared at him, my throat tight. It's not imagination, and it's not the first time. For a moment, his face hardened, just for a second, before he forced a laugh. "You're being paranoid. You know I'd never do that to you." Paranoid. The word cut me deeper than he realized. Was I really losing my mind? Or was he gaslighting me to cover his tracks? I lay awake for hours after he drifted off, staring at the ceiling, my heart breaking piece by piece. I wanted to believe him so badly, but the puzzle pieces in my mind no longer fit together. And then, just a few days later, I found the second clue. This time, it wasn't an earring, it was a lipstick smudge, faint, barely there, but undeniable on the collar of his shirt as I tossed it into the laundry basket. Not my shade, not my brand. My hands trembled as I held it up to the light. The truth was no longer something I could bury. That night, I didn't sleep a single second. My mind kept replaying everything like a broken record. The earring on the nightstand, Alex's cool and confident denial, and the way he had smiled at me as if I was the one being ridiculous. By morning, I had made my mind. I wasn't going to accuse him again without proof. If he wanted me to believe that nothing had happened, then I was going to let the evidence speak for itself. We lived in a modest but cozy two-story house, and one thing Alex seemed to forget was that I insisted we install a security camera system last year after a neighbor's break-in. The cameras were connected to an app on my phone. Alex never cared about it much. He said it was unnecessary, but he went along with it to make me feel safer. That camera was about to become my saving grace. After Alex left for work, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee and pulled up the footage from the night of the party. My heart was pounding so loudly in my chest that I thought I might faint before I even got to the good part. At first, everything looked ordinary. People laughing in the living room, drinks being passed around, music playing. Then I saw Alex and Emily on the couch, sitting a little too close, whispering something that made them both laugh. My stomach turned that I kept watching. Around 1 a.m., the party fizzled out. A few friends left, and soon the house grew quiet. That's when the footage shifted everything I thought I knew. Alex stood up, whispered something to Emily, and she followed him. Not toward the couch where she supposedly crashed for the night, but straight down the hall. And then, the moment that nearly dropped my phone, I saw them sneak into our bedroom. I froze. My hands started shaking so badly I almost spilled my coffee everywhere. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My husband, the man who promised me loyalty and love, walking into our bedroom with his best friend while I was asleep under the same roof. The audacity, the betrayal, it was all right there on camera. I replayed that clip over and over, like some part of me wanted to believe I was mistaken. Maybe they just went in there to grab a blanket. Maybe Emily needed to borrow something. But no. A few minutes later, the camera caught Alex quietly returning to turn off the living room lights. Emily never came back out. My chest tightened as I realized the truth. She hadn't slept on the couch at all. She had spent the night in my bed with my husband while I lay asleep just a few feet away, completely unaware. I didn't cry. Not yet. My tears felt frozen somewhere deep inside me. What I felt in that moment was pure fire, a burning anger I didn't know I was capable of. But even through the rage, a strange calmness washed over me. I had proof now. Solid, undeniable proof. Alex couldn't twist this, couldn't gaslight me, couldn't laugh it off. The truth was recorded, and it was mine to use, however I wanted. The rest of the day, I acted as normal as I could. When Alex came home, he kissed me on the cheek, asked how my day was, and pretended like we were still the perfect couple. I smiled, nodded, and pretended too. Inside, though, I was planning my next move. The hardest part was keeping it together when Emily texted me later that night. "Thanks again for letting me crash the other night," she wrote, followed by a little heart emoji. The audacity made my hands clench into fists. Not only had she betrayed me, but she was lying to me with fake gratitude. I didn't reply. Instead, I saved the text alongside the camera footage. Each piece was another nail in the coffin of their lies. But here's the thing. Once you see betrayal that clearly, you can't unsee it. Every little detail of our marriage started to replay in my mind, like puzzle pieces snapping into place. The sudden late nights at work, the way Emily had been extra friendly with me lately, almost too sweet. The times Alex came home smelling faintly of her perfume, though he claimed it was from the office. It all made sense now, and it wasn't just one mistake or one drunken lapse in judgment. No, this had been going on right under my nose. The next morning, I decided I wasn't going to confront him right away. Not yet. I wanted to be strategic. I wanted him to think he was still in control, that his lies were still working. Because when the moment came, I wanted him to feel the same crushing betrayal he had made me feel. So I waited. I smiled at him when he made coffee. I kissed him goodbye like nothing was wrong. But every night, I went back to that footage, replaying it, burning the image of their betrayal into my brain. And every time I watched it, my resolve grew stronger. The breaking point came just a few days later. We were at dinner with some friends, and Emily was there too. Sitting across from me, laughing, smiling, and pretending to be just the innocent best friend. Alex had his arm casually draped on the back of my chair, as if we were the picture-perfect couple. And I realized in that moment, they thought they had me fooled. They thought I was blind, oblivious, naive. But little did they know, the truth was already in my pocket, waiting to blow their world apart. And I wasn't going to wait much longer. I didn't sleep that night, not a single minute. My body was exhausted, but my mind was wide awake, spinning over and over with what I had just seen. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured that grainy security footage replaying in my head like a nightmare on repeat. Daniel, my husband, the man who swore he loved me, sneaking into our bedroom in the dead of night with someone I trusted, his so-called best friend. The way they tiptoed, giggled quietly, and thought they were being clever while I was upstairs, completely unaware. The image of them disappearing behind the bedroom door kept stabbing me in the chest. My heart didn't just hurt, it felt like it had been ripped open. How could he do this in our home, in the same space where we built our marriage, where we planned our future? Worse, how could he do it while I was literally sleeping in the same house? Betrayal is painful in any form, but this was humiliation layered on top of betrayal. I felt like a stranger in my own life, as if the walls around me were mocking me with secrets I had been too blind to see.
The night dragged on, every minute stretching into an hour. I sat in the living room clutching the gold earring I had found earlier on the nightstand. That tiny piece of jewelry had blown apart the illusion of my marriage. I kept staring at it, turning it over in my palm, wondering how I had missed the signs for so long. Daniel's late nights, the way his phone was suddenly always face down, his vague excuses about being too tired, it was all there. And I had chosen to ignore it because I wanted so badly to believe in him. When the sun finally began to creep through the curtains, I had already made up my mind. There was no running from this, no brushing it aside. I deserved answers, not lies, not excuses, not half-truths, cold, hard answers. Daniel stumbled out of the bedroom around 9 a.m, still groggy, his hair a mess. He stretched, yawned, and walked into the kitchen like it was any other normal Saturday morning. He had no idea what was waiting for him. I was already sitting at the table with my phone placed directly in front of me and the earring lying next to it like a piece of damning evidence. "Morning," he muttered, rubbing his eyes and pouring himself a cup of coffee. His casual tone made my blood boil. How could he be so calm when my whole world had just shattered overnight? I didn't say a word at first. I just waited. I wanted him to dig his own grave with his lies. Sure enough, he finally looked over at me, confused by the silence. "What's wrong?" he asked, furrowing his brow. That was my cue. Without speaking, I picked up my phone, tapped the screen, and played the footage from the security camera. I turned the volume up just enough so the sound of their hushed voices and laughter filled the room. His head snapped toward the phone instantly, and his face drained of all color. His hands froze around his coffee mug, and I swear for a second he forgot how to breathe. "Care to explain this?" I asked, my voice calm but sharp like broken glass. He stammered, his words tripping over each other. I don't know what this looks like, but it's not what you think." "Not what I think?" I snapped, my patience gone. "Daniel, I watched you sneak into our bedroom with her. I saw you on camera. Don't stand there and insult me with more lies." He dropped into the chair across from me, burying his face in his hands. "It was a mistake," he muttered. "I was drunk, we both were. It didn't mean anything." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "A mistake? You mean to tell me you accidentally tiptoed into our bedroom with your best friend while your wife was asleep in the same house? That doesn't happen by accident, Daniel." He looked up, eyes glossy, trying to find the right words, but every excuse he reached for only dug the hole deeper. First, he blamed the alcohol. Then he tried to claim she came on to him. Then, in a desperate attempt, he even suggested that maybe if I had been more attentive, he wouldn't have looked elsewhere. That one hit like a knife. Not because it was true, but because it showed me exactly how far he was willing to go to shift the blame away from himself. I stared at him, disgusted. "So now it's my fault you cheated in our bed? My fault that you lied to my face? My fault you betrayed me with someone I trusted in my own home?" He couldn't answer. His mouth opened, then closed again. He just sat there in silence, his excuses finally running out. And in that silence, I heard everything I needed to know. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. I leaned forward, my voice steady now. "Tell me one thing, Daniel. If it was just a mistake, why our bed? Why the place where I sleep, where we share our life together? Why bring her there, of all places?" That question broke him. His lips trembled, but no sound came out. His silence was louder than any confession he could have given me. That was when I knew there was no fixing this, no salvaging what we once had. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I stood up and walked past him, my decision made. By the end of that day, I had packed his belongings into boxes and stacked them by the front door. He begged, he cried, he swore he'd do anything, that he would cut her off, that it would never happen again. But those promises meant nothing to me anymore. You can't glue together broken glass and expect it to be whole again. As he stood there pleading, I finally felt a strange calm wash over me. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I wasn't the one carrying the weight of his choices. I wasn't the one doubting my worth or questioning my instincts. I saw the truth clearly, and I chose myself over his betrayal. That night, after he left, I sat on the edge of my bed, and looked around the room. For once, it felt mine again. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. The gold earring was still sitting on the nightstand, and as much as I hated what it represented, I also realized it was the reason I finally opened my eyes. That tiny piece of jewelry wasn't just an accessory someone forgot. It was a sign, a clue left behind that forced me to confront the lies I had been living with. And in a strange way, I was grateful for it. Because without it, I might have continued living in the dark, believing Daniel's lies, and giving away pieces of myself to someone who never truly valued me. Now, when I think about that night, I don't see it as the end of my marriage.
I see it as the beginning of something better: freedom, truth, and a chance to rebuild my life on my own terms. Sometimes betrayal feels like the worst thing in the world, but sometimes it's the very thing that saves you from wasting your life on someone who doesn't deserve you. And that's the lesson I walked away with.